Okay, so welcome. This is dulcedecoco.
I did not know the name of this
That is our
podcast.
podcast name, Dulce de Coco, and my name is Martha Ryan, and I have my co-host here.
My name is Oscar Asensio.
And if you couldn't tell by our voices, we are related, brother and sister.
We have sibling voices.
We have sibling voices, definitely. But this podcast is to talk about briefly Dominican food. We are Dominican, and just what makes Dominican food special. How is it different eating in Dominican Republic than eating here? We should know about this because we immigrated here when we were very young.
I was a little too young to
How old
remember.
were you?
I was 3. I was almost 4.
Yeah, you were a baby, and I was 8. So, and everybody's really proud of their native food, the gastronomy of their country. But I think Dominicans are especially proud. That might just be because I'm from there.
Yeah, I mean, we have good food.
We really do.
People in New York go out of their way to go and get Dominican food, right?
That is right. And we were recently in New York where we made a point to visit some really well-known Dominican restaurants so that we could eat the food that our parents no longer make.
Yeah. That we never learned to make.
Yes, and that we have not learned to make yet, which is something that we definitely want to talk about.
But you can't, there's no way to learn to make it because trying to learn from Dominican moms or dads how to make the food is near impossible.
It is, especially our mother, who we're going to visit with in a later episode of this show, so you could see exactly what we're talking about. But let's talk about some iconic dishes. Definitely breakfast, desayuno, is a real iconic dish. And in Dominican Republic, we call it mangu con los tres golpes.
Yeah, is that the greasiest breakfast in the world?
It is the greasiest breakfast in the world, but it is very delicious, and all of the white people in our lives love it.
Yeah. I remember Dad used to say that was what Sammy used to get the home runs. It wasn't the steroids. It was the mango.
Plátano power. We're definitely going to talk about that. So for those of you that do not know, which I assume is a lot of you, mango con los tres golpes translates to mango with the 3 hits. Now, what is...
Sounds like a shot, like a drink.
Yes. Now, what is mango? You might be asking yourself. Well, mango is like the equivalent of mashed potatoes, but made with plantains.
The not sweet banana.
Yes, it is a derivative of bananas, but it is not sweet. And for making mango, you need green plantains.
Stick of butter.
Green plantains, a lot of butter, caramelized onions on top.
Yeah. It's got to have the onions.
Yes. And then, the mango is the main star of the breakfast dish. The 3 hits, los tres golpes, are fried eggs, fried salami, and fried cheese. And yes, you heard that correctly. It is all fried.
All fried. But that's what makes it good. I don't think it would be good if it was healthy.
Yeah, that's true. My favorite is the fried cheese. Actually, everybody at the table fights over that.
You fight over the fried. You have to get like the last piece.
Yes. And it's a really thick white cheese. It's not like cheddar cheese or anything like that. It's a really thick. What kind of cheese is it? I don't even know.
I think they just say white cheese. That's the most I can get out of Dad. The white cheese.
Yeah, queso blanco, which you usually buy in a bodega.
Yeah, I think that they don't understand that there's like hundreds of cheeses. So when I say what cheese and he says the white cheese, there's a bit of a disconnect.
Yes, but you cut it thick into thick slices, and then you fry it up in some oil, and it gets, really crispy on the outside, but still melty on the inside. And that, in conjunction with your fried eggs, which are still a little bit runny in the middle, and your mashed mango, your mashed plantains with sauteed onions on the top, is just the bomb.
Yeah, it is. It holds up. I don't think there's ever a time where it's not a good breakfast.
Yes. And of course, you need to have this with hot coffee and with avocados, which are another huge staple of our cuisine.
But the thing, we have to go back to the coffee though, because I think Dominicans drink like 2 brands of coffee.
Well, there's several brands, but I would think that if we rated the top 5 Dominican food items, coffee is definitely there.
Bustelo's the brand. You have like a rogue set of people that maybe use La Llave.
La Llave.
There's Bustelo and just about that's it.
But Bustelo is not made in the Dominican Republic.
No, but that's because Dominicans don't actually like Café Santo Domingo.
Oh, yes. But we do know that we like our coffee. We like it hot. We don't do iced coffee. What is
We like
that?
We like it strong.
We like it strong. We like it hot. And people like it black throughout the day. You drink it black with no sugar like a freak.
Yeah, that's the way to go. It wakes you up better.
I like my coffee with milk and sugar. And that will never change. But what about avocado, aguacate, which is how we say it?
Avocado's it's a lunch staple. You got to have that with lunch.
You got to have it with breakfast. You got to have it with dinner. Yesterday, I brought an avocado to work.
You have to eat avocado all day long. No, that's the problem. We've always eaten a lot of avocado, but all of a sudden you can't. Avocados are expensive. They've gotten expensive.
They've gotten trendy.
We've let avocados get too popular. And now it's too expensive to eat.
Well, on that subject, did you know that Dominican Republic is actually the second largest producer of avocados next to Mexico? And
I did not know that.
Yes, and you learned something today. And production is actually improving for farmers in Dominican Republic who are learning to grow avocados organically and who are learning to sell avocados in a safer, more productive way.
The Dominican farmers went hipster.
Yes.
They got the organic avocados coming out.
But I've just always grown up eating avocados as like a garnish almost to every single meal.
It's always an add-on, a sprinkle of salt. That's all you need.
Yeah, you definitely need avocados. And actually, I remember visiting Dominican Republic around 11 o'clock. You would hear some man roll down the street with a cart
The
shouting,
avocado guy.
aguacate, and all the housewives would run out and, get their avocados for the midday meal.
Yeah, the grocery store comes to you in Dominican Republic.
Yes, it's very convenient.
There's always a guy in a cart sweating like crazy trying to get his basket of vegetables and fruit around.
Why don't we have that here? I hate running to the store.
People don't like being behind a bicycle that's selling stuff here. We're in too much of a rush here. Over there, traffic's a little. People don't care. They'll just do whatever in the road.
You can buy an aguacate while you're sitting at a red light.
I mean, I think in places like LA, it might happen more. It doesn't happen much in the suburbs of Florida.
I have never seen that.
It doesn't happen here as much.
But this is a good way to transition into talking about that midday meal. The midday meal in Dominican Republic.
That's the big meal.
Is very European. It is the big meal. And for the brief time that I lived in Dominican Republic, I remember our dad, coming home for lunch or, that midday meal. And they would eat at home. It was a meal that you went home to eat. And then usually you could take a rest, a siesta, for a little while before you head back to work.
Yeah, I remember that on so many of the trips that we've taken back there.
Yes.
That like hour and a half, 2 hours, middle of the day, people go home.
Yeah, and it was your big meal of the day, consisting of... What's the main thing on that plate, Oscar?
It's la bandera. That translates to the flag.
The flag.
The Dominican flag, la bandera, is the rice, the beans, and the meat.
Yes.
And then, of course, you have all your other little stuff like the avocados and everything. But the main dish is, you have your rice, you have usually your red beans, and I would say the
white
the
rice,
chicken,
red beans,
the chicken cooked. It would be stewed chicken. Yeah,
stewed. You could have like a little salad too on the side.
Yep.
And again, plantains. This time not made in a mongoose style, but made in a tostones style or sweet. If they're green, then you would make tostones, which is to fry them in oil
Little
with a little
sand dollar.
yeah, in a sand dollar shape with a little bit of salt, and they're crispy that way. Or to have them, if they're ripened, sweet, which is something that people here have eaten, with their Cuban food.
That's popular in Tampa.
Yeah, definitely. So plantains always making an appearance as well as the avocado. And a little bit about the plantains. They're just a staple. I mean, that saying plátano power.
That's us. That's our nickname.
Yeah.
Dominicans are plátanos.
We're fueled by plátanos.
I feel like we could have come up with a cooler sounding nickname for us, but somehow that's what we got stuck with. You know, Puerto Ricans got boricua. We got plátanos, plantains.
Plantain power. Well, I love them. I mean, they're rich in carbohydrates, which is great for energy. They're fibrous and they're good for your health. I mean, they have a lot of potassium and vitamin C. So
they are heavy also.
They are heavy on the belly, but I think that they're really yummy. And I always remember mom, peeling them and telling you to be careful because the peel can stain your clothes. Mm-hmm. But if you want good plantains, again, head to the bodega.
But it's as heavy as it is, and as being the staple of Dominican food so much, Dominicans aren't very fat.
No, but I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I think that is for the way that they've eaten for many years, which is to have those 3 square meals a day. Right? There's no snacking. And that was one thing that was very shocking to me when we moved to the States was just the plethora of different foods found in a supermarket or visiting a friend. You would open their pantry and they've got cookies, they've got donuts. We didn't grow up with any of that. You ate when food was ready and on the table.
Yeah, no, we didn't really have a choice.
Not to mention, we also commuted a lot. You walked a lot.
Yes.
And that's not something that people do here, at least not in St. Pete.
When the sun is constantly bearing down on you all day.
Yeah, definitely. But yes, that definitely was a change in eating in Dominican Republic and eating here. And dinner, la cena, was usually small because, again, your biggest meal was at midday.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like a supper. Just something very light. It could be some bread with cheese or, maybe some mashed potatoes and an egg or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that one varied every day. That was the one that didn't really matter as much.
Yeah. The dinner was not as important as the midday meal.
It was the lunch meal was the big one. But, I mean, lunch meal was at 1, 2 in the afternoon. I mean, it did not happen at 11 or 12.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you like growing up eating this way? Did you like it?
No, well, now I do. When I was younger, I hated it only because I wanted something different. When I was younger, all I could think was man, why won't they make spaghetti?
Yeah.
Can we just order pizza? That's what I wanted as a kid. But now that I'm older, that's what I like a lot more. I want to eat that more often.
Yeah. And there's definitely the difficulty of cooking some Dominican meals.
You can't do it.
Yeah, all the time.
I asked Mom to tell me the recipe for some of her dishes, and she scoffed at me like I was crazy. What recipe? So I was like, all right, let's go into the kitchen and do some of this stuff. Have you ever tried doing that?
Yes.
And the one thing you get from Dominican moms...
This is easy. All you do is add this and this and this.
And then your first question is, wait. Okay, how much of this do I add? Just enough.
Yeah.
And then how long do I let this sit on the stove? Yeah, just until it's done.
Yes.
I'm like, wow, okay. So it sounds like the recipe is you add some of this, some of that. How much is, enough? And you cook it until it's done.
Yeah, and if you screw it up, she will make fun of you.
Oh, but you'll always screw it up. It's always too salty or not salty enough.
Well, on the next episode, I definitely want to talk about some of the real special meals that only make appearances at special occasions.
The pastelitos.
Pastelitos, quipes.
The quipes. That one was an import for us.
Yes,
the quipes.
That is
that one came
inspired
out of
by Middle Eastern
Middle
cuisine.
East, yeah.
So I definitely want to talk about those. And then some of the weirder foods like morir soñando.
The weirdest name for mondongo, which Americans aren't that unfamiliar with.
No, they eat. It's tripe.
I mean, it has different names in the South and everything.
Do not enjoy that.
It is not a dish I love. Our parents love it.
So next episode, we'll definitely talk about some of those more fringe dishes, controversial dishes that, of course, our father loves.
Yeah,
And
he loves all the gross ones.
yeah, definitely. But in closing, what is one food that you recently discovered that you love? I bet I can guess what it is.
That I recently discovered that I love.
Yes,
Oh man, what are you guessing?
mofongo.
Oh, mofongo's the best. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, we used to eat it when we were younger, and I didn't think much of it. But now that I'm older, I don't know if I could get enough mofongo.
So mofongo is actually a Puerto Rican dish, and it's used it's made with plantains,
Yeah.
crispy pork skin,
Yeah, it's fried up.
garlic, lots of garlic, and it's fried up and made into almost like a little
Yeah, you got to make a little ball.
like
You
a
gotta-
little ball.
You put it,
Yeah.
because you always put it in the mortar.
Yes,
Mortar.
pestle and mortar,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You put it in
yeah.
a little container, a little ball.
It's so
It's cute. You
good.
feel bad tearing into it, but it tastes delicious.
Yes, it is so good. Definitely one of my favorites. Well, what about out of the 3 meals of the day? The breakfast, desayuno, the lunch.
Oh man.
Which one do you like the
Oh,
best?
if I had to choose, that's tough. But I'm probably gonna go with the lunch.
The lunch,
The lunch.
la bandera.
La bandera is the best. I mean, don't get me wrong. Breakfast is good, but
Well, you don't like to eat breakfast.
I can skip breakfast a lot of times.
Well, I'm gonna go with breakfast.
So-
I like mangú with the tres golpes.
That's if I had to choose one, if I had to just choose one, it's la bandera, the
Okay.
midday meal,
All right, next.
because you can toss some wine in with that too.
Oh, that is true.
You can't do that with the breakfast one
No,
without
not
seeming crazy.
wine, cold beer, presidente.
Well, and the cold doesn't translate the same. It's very cold. The beer has to be so cold that it's like
Yes.
frosted on the outside.
That's how we like it.
Anything short of that is not Dominican.
Icy, cold, definitely.
It's an art form.
Well, thanks for talking typical Dominican dishes with me, bro, Sif. And I guess we will see you guys on the next episode of Dulce de Coco. Thanks for joining us.
Right.